Hey guys, it's Omer from MMOs.com with another quick weekly news recap of all major MMO news and announcements for the week ending September 4th, 2017. This is episode number 111 of the recap, and the first bit of news this week is from Digital Extremes, the company behind Warframe, and boy have they been busy. Just shortly after unveiling the amazing Eternals, they announced another new game this week called Survived By, which is a roguelite permadeath MMO that kind of looks a lot like a Realm of the Mad God. The game features up to 100 players surviving side by side in a bullet hell style battle. Having played quite a bit of Realm of the Mad God, I'm excited for this one. Closed alpha is set to begin sometime this year, with pre-registrations already open. Up next, also in the new games arena, Sega announced a new line of Yakuza games this week, one of which is a free-to-play online game for both PC and mobile that's set to launch sometime in 2018 called Yakuza Online. Sega is already surveying Western audiences to see if they'd be interested in the game as well, so Western release is possible. Yakuza Online will be set after the events of Yakuza 6, The Song of Life, and practically nothing is known about the game just yet. The only video we have is the one in the background you're seeing, which shows off the game's lore. Here's hoping Yakuza Online does make its way over to the West, but then again, I'm still hoping we still get Fantasy Star Online too, but I think I'll be waiting a long time for that one. Next up, a bit of drama surrounding the English Early Access launch of Hyper Universe. I didn't mention it last week because I only realized it recently, but the English version of Hyper Universe actually features quite a few changes to the game's art style, which many people have cried out as being a form of censorship. Essentially what Nexon did was they made the boob sizes for most of the female characters smaller or more covered up, and they actually removed some of the game's boob physics as well, which was visible during character running animations. Now, I'm personally against any kind of censorship, especially when they involve breast size reduction. This isn't the first time though a Korean game in the West has self-censored their own content. Blade and Soul did it as well, and I'm sure numerous other games did too. But anyway, you can see the changes for yourself in the background. Now, while it's not that big of a deal, it is unfortunate to see the boobs get smaller. Up next, EVE Online from CCP announced this week that their latest expansion, titled Lifeblood, will be launching in October. Like previous EVE expansions, it will be available to everyone for free. Big improvements are coming to the game for moon mining with the introduction of refiners. Other changes coming to EVE include the introduction of the mining ledger, improvements to the agency, and some balance changes to various ships. Again, the best part of all EVE expansions is that they're always free, which is something I definitely like to see in other games. Next up, Final Fantasy XIV had their live letter this last week, which had a lot of big 4.1 announcements. With 4.1, players can expect a new main scenario quests, a new dungeon called The Drowned City of Scala, a new 24-man raid series called Return to Ivalice, a new PvP mode, a new Alliance raid roulette, and most importantly, a new Beyond Savage difficulty dungeon called The Unending Coil of Bahamut. The original Coil of Bahamut was an epic raid series back in the 2.0 days, so returning to it now with a brand new difficulty sounds pretty awesome. Though some players did complain that instead of getting new content, they're just remaking some old content. 4.1 should be launching the next month or so, and there's a lot of new stuff to look forward to. I didn't even get a chance to cover half of it over here because they're adding so much content. I mean, they're even adding cross-world tell functions and friends list, which is pretty simple that I'm surprised other games don't have it yet. Anyway, moving right along, Black Desert Online showed off the Mystic Class's Awakening this week in the South Korean version of the game. This obviously isn't available in the Western version as the Mystic Class isn't even released here yet, but is expected to launch sometime in the West in December. And besides the new Mystic Class though, there are several other big updates on the horizon for BDO. Kamaslift Part 1 is set to launch sometime this month, with Part 2 set to launch in October. And considering how quickly the Mystic Class got her awakening in the Korean version, I expect that to happen in the West within a month or so after her launch as well. Next, Asher Creation shows off some actual in-game combat with a new trailer made for PAX West, which actually looks pretty good. A playable pre-alpha version of the game will be available at PAX West for attendees to try, but it's more of a demo of a specific area than anything else because the game isn't nearly finished. Another stage of alpha testing is called Alpha Zero. It begins on December 15th, 2017 for the game as well. I've never heard of the term Alpha Zero before Asher Creation used it, and frankly, I'm getting a bit tired of all these bullshit pre-release alpha, Alpha Zero, closed alpha terms. Whatever happened to just alpha, beta, and release? Anyway, it looks like Asher Creation is making progress though, and I hope the game succeeds as it has some really cool ideas behind it. According to Steven Sharif, the dude making the game, it'll take about 30 million bucks to make a viable build of Ashes, and they only raised about 3.2 million through a Kickstarter so far, so it remains a bit of a mystery where the rest of that money will come from. Hopefully private investors, but we'll have to wait and see. Next up, Webzen announced this week that Mu Legends Open Beta in the West will be delayed by 3 months and is now set to launch in November. This is especially lame because the South Korean version of the game has been in Open Beta since March of this year. Still, Webzen actually released a lengthy blog post explaining the delay and why they did it, and it's because they want to incorporate the feedback from the South Korean Open Beta into the global release to create a better product. I mean, ultimately, they do want the game to succeed, and given that it'll be launching well before Lost Ark or Lineage Eternal, I still think that it has a chance. There really isn't too many other games like it. It's like Diablo or Path of Exile, but with an actual persistent world and some MMORPG elements. And while some of the hype already died down, I still remain optimistic. Next up, out with the new and in with the oldies. Webzen announced a brand new update for Rappelz titled Epic 9.5 Trials of Devildom, which is set to launch on September 12th. Epic 9.5 introduces a new instance dungeon called Devildom, which has 3 stages and 30 rooms, and is the game's most challenging dungeon yet. Also included in the 9.5 update is changes to the game's XP systems, which should speed up leveling for new characters, and as with any update, there's also some balance changes as well. While Rappelz is an oldie, it did launch back in 2006 after all, it still maintains a core loyal player base. And speaking of oldies, NosTale is launching on Steam sometime this month. The game originally launched about 10 years ago back in 2007 and is still around. It's certainly not the only old school MMORPG to move to Steam. We've seen games like Metin 2, Knight Online, and several others do it. Even Cal Online is on Steam as well. And a lot of these games have seen quite a bit of success on there. I think the trend of old MMOs launching on Steam is only going to continue. Up next, Wild West Online is launching into closed alpha on September 15th with a proper alpha release following shortly afterwards. During this closed alpha phase, players can buy the game at a discount. When this game was first announced, the entire internet was mega hyped about it, but after people learned about the game's connection to Sergei Titov and his Nightshade engine, some of that enthusiasm has definitely waned. Still, the good thing about this one is that it's actually going to launch relatively soon, plus it features a Wild West theme. It will be buy to play though, and I'm not particularly excited about this one, but I'll probably still try it and make a first look video. Moving right along, a small update for Kritika Online launched this week called The Shattered Table. Pretty odd name for an update. It added an all-new Ultimate Zone to the game, which is designed for 2 players. The update also included a new gear evolution system, expanded PvP and arena modes, and much more. If you never played Kritika, it's one of those instance dungeons, persistent town MMORPGs, kind of like DFO and Dragon Nest. Up next, SkyForge will be welcoming its 15th class on September 19th, which is the Revenant. And while what the Revenant does isn't actually super clear based on the official Revenant announcement trailer that you're seeing in the background, they're a class that wields a giant axe that can siphon life from their enemies using dark magic. A new class is always a big deal in any game, especially a game like SkyForge, because players are never locked into a single class the way they are in most MMORPGs. You can play and level each class individually, kind of like the job system in Final Fantasy XIV. But yeah, this new class is launching on the 19th. Also in related MMOs.com news, Cloud Pirates prepares to shut down with its final update called The Final Frontier. The servers will be officially turning off for good on September 29th. The game's closure shouldn't honestly come as a big surprise. Anyone that followed the game will see that the game's player base quickly dwindled. It launched with a nice player base of about 568 players online at a given time, but over the last 30 days it's been about 103, which is clearly not enough to support the game. Between now and the game's closure, progress is being sped up 50% and all the cash up content is being unlocked essentially for free. It's always sad to see a game shut down, but another will take its place. Rest in pepperoni, Cloud Pirates. Up next, Turbine announced this week they'll be launching a Game of Thrones mobile strategy game called Game of Thrones Conquest. And while I'm confident they're going to make a ton of money off it, the core game looks a lot like every other pay-to-win mobile strategy title. I'm sad to see an Epic game developer that helped define the MMORPG genre with titles like Asheron's Call, focusing all their efforts on yet another mobile Duker strategy game. Oh well, I'm sure they're going to make a ton of money off it, but it's odd to see how far Turbine has fallen. Next up, in some not awful mobile game news, the Alchemist Code revealed a global English trailer this week. The Alchemist Code is a free-to-play mobile RPG from Gumi, the Japanese studio best known for Final Fantasy Brave Exvius and Chain Chronicle. And from the looks of it, this trailer, the game actually looks pretty legit. It looks a bit like Final Fantasy Tactics with some multiplayer components, and that could be very successful and pretty awesome. The trailer, at least, looks pretty cool. The game will be launching in English by the end of the year. Up next, another bit of mobile MMORPG news. It's about a persistent world mobile MMORPG with no autoplay. The folks over at Azabimo launched a trailer for Alchemia Story, which is set to launch in Japan by the end of 2017. If you've played any Azabimo title, you'll know that basically all of them have persistent worlds and no autoplay, which in this day of age is worth emphasizing twice. Unfortunately, all we have for the game is that it'll be launching in Japan. No word on when the English release will happen, or if an English release will even ever happen. But Azabimo has localized some of their games in English already, so if this one does well, it'll probably make its way over in English. Moving past the mobile stuff, World of Tanks patch 9.2 launched this week, which includes a ton of balance changes, but also introduces a massive 30 vs 30 tank battle system. Officially called Grand Battles, the 30 vs 30 tank battles take place on a fairly giant map and is only playable with tier 10 vehicles. Given the size of the map and the largest scale of battles, only 4 SPGs are allowed per team as well. But we don't talk too much about World of Tanks. It's actually one of the most successful free-to-play games ever, and by our numbers is the 4th highest grossing free-to-play game after League, Crossfire, and DFO. And speaking of League, the next and last bit of news comes from Riot Games regarding League of Legends. Some big changes are on the way to the game, such as the removal of the level 30 cap and the merging of IP with Blue Essence. Players can keep leveling up past level 30 now, and every time they level up, they'll be rewarded with an unlocked loot box with random rewards. Clearly they took a page from Overwatch's playbook with this one. They're also getting rid of influence points altogether and merging them with blue essence. Everything that cost IP now costs blue essence instead. These are big changes, and Riot released a video detailing the reasons behind them in a video worth watching if you're a League player. Anyway guys, that's it for MMO news this week. I'll see you guys tomorrow for the podcast. Later guys.